Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another edition of Throwback Thursdays, and what I have for you today is the McFarlane Toys Spawn Series 3 or 4, one of the two. It was before they switched to the big card back with the Spawn logo on it. This was back when they had blue card backs with the lightning bolts on it. That gives you guys any idea of what I'm talking about. I hope it does. But at any rate, we are taking a look at Mutant Spawn. But before we get into the meat and taters of this review, since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, let's first take a look-see at his accessories, which ain't much. And really, these don't technically count as accessories. I just took them off for convenience sake. So he comes with these clear green shell pieces / wing pieces. He's got a bit of a bug motif. Back to the bugs with Spawn. I think McFarlane just has a bug fetish, okay? Like, look at all the manga Spawn figures. They all look like bugs. This guy looks like a bug. Future Spawn, who I haven't looked at yet, looks like a big arse freaking robot bug. Lots of bugs in Spawn. Not quite sure where that comes from, but this guy comes with these clear green shell, wing, whatever you want to call them, pieces. Actually pretty decent quality. You would think that these are fairly brittle and cheap, but they're actually kind of thick. And not all that brittle, unless, you know, you force it like the Hulk or something and snap it in half on purpose. But he does come with 2 sets of those. I don't think they're the same. I think they are a little different. I think the 2 that go on the back are a little longer. Maybe they're the same, but at any rate, they do feel slightly different to me, and that's what matters. That's what she said. But yeah, he does come with 4 of those, and that is it. That said, he doesn't have any grip hands, so no weapons required. He just has a couple of fisticuffs to punch your freaking lights out with, which is always nice. But before we take a closer look at good old Mutant Spawn here, I'd like to give a shout out to my good buddy Eltenda. See, I remembered this time, unlike that stupid What's in the Box video I posted on Sunday. Hell's matter with me. Either way, he was nice enough to hook me up with this figure. Found it at his, well, not really local, but semi-local comic and toy shop, Geek Toy Hut. If you're in Illinois, look them up. They have a lot of cool stuff. They had a lot of cool stuff. We were actually talking on the phone, and we were checking out everything they got. Recently, they had a bunch of horror stuff, and I'm guessing this Spawn was maybe a part of that. And he was nice enough to pick it up for me for the low price of $10, which, not gonna lie, is kind of the going rate for any vintage Spawn figure, because they're essentially disposable income at this point. They're all fairly cheap. I think some of the cooler looking ones might be running a little bit more, particularly Spawn 3, or maybe something like the Gatekeeper, or, you know, a really good figure of Violator might run you a little bit more. But a lot of these old wackadoo figures from the OG 8 waves, fairly affordable on the secondary market. And this guy's no exception. But on top of this, he also got me a really, really nice, fresh out of package Brooklyn from Kenner Gargoyles line. So we'll be looking at that at some point. But until then, I'll leave a link in the description below to both Eltenda's Instagram and YouTube channel. Head on over there, give him a sub and a follow. Let him know Overlord sent you. But as always, don't be a dick. I will find you. You will suffer the consequences. So, enough yapping. Let's take a look at Mutant Spawn here. Not a lot to talk about other than just look at how off the wall this freaking thing is. I love it. I love this type of stuff. He's got the rib cage in the back. Now, there's this rubber thing here, and I cannot for the life of me figure out if it comes out. I'm gonna say no, because this top piece does not open, this bottom piece doesn't open. He's got like a rib cage set up here. It just feels like a bunch of organs and guts and stuff up in there. And I don't think you can really get this out unless you maybe push it out this way. I don't know. I can't figure out a way to get this out. But I guess if you want to call this an accessory, this is up in there. It's a pretty snug fit. It's not coming out for me, and I don't see a way to open up this back piece. So I'm gonna just leave that in there. It's not like it'd be coming out of there anyways. But you can see he also has this big mouth, this big gaping maw with these 3 eyes on top. There's a reason for that. He has a quote-unquote mutating gimmick, and what it's meant to do is kind of transform into another kind of creature-looking thing. It works, it's cool, but it's not ideal, I'll say. Now that said, as far as articulation is concerned, his head is on a kind of a hinged ball joint here. You can tilt it up and down, he can look side to side, or he can go back up inside himself like a turtle, which is kind of hilarious. It does get stuck from time to time, but if you do it right, you can pop it all the way in there. Now, I kind of like it all the way up in there. That's what she said. It's out of the way that way, and that's fine with me. That said, his shoulders do rotate. Nothing in the elbow, because just look at this crazy zany arm. There's a peg hole on the side of each arm for those wing bits. He does also have legs that rotate. And that's really it. On top of that, he does have a hinged jaw thing here, which if you close this up, you see the full face of this. And what you're supposed to do is swing these tentacles around, which are also on swivel joints. So if you pose them right, you can get them up and around in front of him like this. If we do that on this side. Pop that down, pop that down. Super easy to do this without the wing bits and stuff attached. But you can see that he's starting to look a little bit more like a freakazoid here. He's got the tail as well, it's on a hinge joint, as well as a secondary hinge joint, which this is the only joint that was stuck, but after I bent it thinking it was a bendy wire, it started to move. This is a little warped though, so I may need to heat that and fix that, but nothing is damaged here. Everything is fine. But that said, you could see that this is the kind of quasi-crazy monster form that this thing is meant to have. I don't understand what the Sam hell is going on here. It's just wacky spawn craziness, and I love it. That said, I do like to tuck these tentacles, or whatever you want to call these, bladed appendages. I don't... Again, crazy spawn, wacky zaniness that I love. Just kind of like to tuck these back here so they're out the way. So move, bitch, get out the way, get out the way. And he has a very easy time standing up. You don't even need the tail. You can keep the tail folded up if you want, which I usually do. Just cause, but with that being said, that's pretty much it. So a little bit more than 5p, actually. I thought it was more of a 5p figure, but really the arms and legs, those are the main things that move. I will say these tentacle thingies, they are on bendy wires. Really heavy duty bendy wires, so you could pose them a little bit. Don't go crazy with them like I did. You don't want to break them. I mean, I didn't do that obviously, but don't go nuts. Just be diligent with them. And, yeah, let's fold this thing down. Which this jaw has a tendency to kind of warp on these pins here. But there's one long pin going through this piece here. So I don't think you really need to worry about breakage. Not too much anyways. That said, let's attach these little shell thingies, because they kind of add to the mutation gimmick of this figure. And really, I'm not 100% sure how these things are supposed to go, but I have a tendency to put them on like this and like this. This one kind of pops out for me, so I might need to shave some excess plastic off. There we go. Now it's in there all the way. Looking pretty cool so far. He's got some crazy shell bits on his arms. Kind of wish these went over his lower arms. Maybe I could mod it to do that. We'll see. You could swap them. Have them on opposite sides. But lowering the tail here, he does have the two back shell pieces that go in this top area here. And they can fold down like that. I do appreciate that these just straight up come off too. I'm not annoyed by that at all. I think that's great. So he can have like wings, I guess, if you want to call them wings. Or you can just leave them folded down like I do. But you know what? We have a little bit of time. Let me see if I can swap these suckers out. Give him some armored plate arms instead of, you know, the stock version of it here. I don't know if these are different size pegs or what, but you can kind of do it. You can kind of do it. Doesn't work out that great. They go over his hands. Yeah, they do kind of go over his hands, but it's not terrible, I guess. Want to have some crazy shield arms, but I think I prefer them the other way. The default way. But, you know, I think it's cool that you could kind of mix and match these shell pieces to how you see fit. That's another reason I was seeing if they worked the other way. They would have took up a little bit less room. If they went, really, I would like them to go down here and look like that. That would look pretty sweet, but his hands aren't open or have a big hole dremelled in them, so I can't do that. Nor am I going to customize him to do that. There is Mutant Spawn and all of his wacky mutant zaniness. Now, I do have the Spawn Mutations. Mutant Spawn. And we will be taking a look-see at those at some point. I do still want to look at the Manga Clown and Manga Violator from the Manga Spawn line, because they're the last two I have, other than that piece of crap goddess figure, which I am not looking at. That thing's just going to give me an aneurysm if I try and review it. But the only reason we took a break from Manga Spawn is because, well, you guys probably burn out on that shit by now. And I wanted to get this video out there because, well, this is the last Throwback Thursday with the 8-bit Merciful Fate Gypsy song in the background. Yeah. This past week, we are doing away with the old 8-bit themes. And we're going to be bringing in some new ones specifically for October. But we're going to be changing things up after that. So stay tuned. I have a monthly channel update for September going up tomorrow with all the deets on all that type of stuff. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up here is Mutant Spawn next to his non-mutated self. At least I think this is supposed to be Al Simmons, right? Either way, we have Spawn 1 from Spawn Series 1. And as you can see, Mutant Spawn not only has been working out and has put on some size, I mean, it's pretty freaking jacked compared to the regular Spawn there, but also you can see just how much more paint and sculpt detail he has because he came out a couple of waves after this old dog here. That said, sometimes you don't need to train an old dog new tricks because this old Spawn figure still holds up. I still really like it. And it is one of my favorite 90s action figures of all time. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus. 11th Spawn, who as usual, towers over everyone. Not by a whole heck of a lot, mind you, but the fact of the matter is, he still towers over everyone. That said, though, seeing Mutant Spawn next to the 11th Spawn here makes me want a new Mutant Spawn in the Spawn Universe line. We just don't get enough figures in that line, man. I know they just showed off a few more over the weekend, but I'm not satisfied. Give me more Spawn, Todd. You know you want to. Give us a crap load of DC figures after all. But with all that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and while I can't say that this is the most dynamic figure out of the vintage Spawn line as far as articulation goes, I mean, this guy takes it way back to the 1970s with 5 points of articulation, am I right? I have to tell ya, I had relatively reasonable expectations for this figure. I didn't expect to like him as much as I did, but I have to say that if any vintage Spawn figure exceeded my expectations, it is good old Mutant Spawn here. Having the Mutant Spawn from the Spawn Mutation series, my expectations were not as high for this particular figure as they were for that other one. So finally having this not only fills out a hole in my vintage Spawn collection, but also introduces me to another fun figure from the vintage Spawn line. And I can't thank my good buddy Eltenda enough for this, because this figure exceeded all expectations. I really love this guy. I think he's fun. I think he's cool. I think he's awesome. And if you have a vintage Spawn collection, this is one of the better figures. The quality is actually pretty solid for a vintage Spawn figure, which I think we can all agree that ain't much, but gotta tell ya, this guy's pretty solid. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Throwback Thursday. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. Stay tuned. Throwback Thursdays will not be going away next month. They will just be taken over by a specific toy line throughout the entirety of good old October. So I hope you guys are ready for that. I know I'm not. I mean, let's face it, I'm going to be busting my butt getting those videos done for you guys. That said, if you haven't already, please hit up my good buddy Eltenda over on Instagram and YouTube. I will try and leave links in the description below for both of his accounts. Head on over there, give him a follow, give him a subscribe. Let him know Overlord sent you. But as always, be nice. Don't be a dick, or I'll find you. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when not enough Spawn figures coming out in the new Spawn line. I'm not going to lie. I would like a little bit more. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.